A lot of people in the fitness industry or in the health and wellness industry sometimes take one thing and make it big, and you have to do that one thing, and if you don't overkill it, you are not doing it right, you're not healthy enough. And so the idea that this might be a reset button might fall into the idea of like, you have to yawn. And the pressure of yawning doesn't feel like a natural setup for that. Hi everyone, today we're gonna talk about yawning. I wanted to follow up a little bit on some of the videos I've done in that series of relaxation, rest, recovery. And yawning is definitely something that I have shared with clients quite a bit in the past. The idea here is most of the time we have, some of us, a memory of yawning when we're in school, and it was frowned upon by teachers. Are you bored? Are you tired? Or any of the like. So we kind of have a tendency as adults, some of us, to not yawn or to feel embarrassed when we yawn. And oftentimes, as much as I have conversation with people when they have chronic pain on posture, I do have conversation with people who have anxiety on yawning, and those mixed behavior that are very natural, that you see in nature, that you see in animals, that you see in babies. And as adults, we have a tendency to kind of struggle a bit with feeling free with it. So today, let's dive a little bit deeper into the science of yawning. Interestingly enough, even if it's a very known part of our life, there's not a lot of big knowledge about what is it for. There's some speculation that it's some form of rest or reset for the system, but to what kind, it's not exactly sure. Some papers are talking about the fact that it might be a way to cool the brain. You inhale fresh air, goes in the system and cools down the brain. It's a fairly interesting claim. There's also the idea of pendiculation. There's a great article by Paul Ingram from January 28, 2023 on does pendiculation rest muscle tone. So pendiculation is the cat stretch, right? You've done it in the morning. Sometimes you wake up and you're like contracting your whole muscle and going long, and that's called pendiculation. And in this article, Paul Ingram, I-N-G-R-A-H-A-M, talks also about something I just learned about. It's called chasmology or chasmology. I don't know how it's spelled, how it sounds, but it's spelled C-H-A-S-M-O-L-O-G-Y, which is a science of yawning. Yes, there's a science of yawning. Chasmology. If anyone, I need to talk to a human who knows that word. And that in that article, I've learned a little bit more about the idea I'm sharing here with the, maybe it's a reset thing, but he has a good, interesting point. He said like a lot of people in the fitness industry or in the health and wellness industry sometimes take one thing and make it big, and you have to do that one thing, and if you don't overkill it, you are not doing it right, you're not healthy enough. And so the idea that this might be a reset button might fall into the idea of like, you have to yawn. And the pressure of yawning doesn't feel like a natural setup for that. So great article. It's a 10-minute read. You will have a blast. I love reading his article. It's on painscience.com, which is a great website. It's kind of like the Wikipedia of chronic pain. I actually have a podcast where I interviewed him, so we can definitely have you take a look at that as well. So if I go back to yawning, there's something that is very practical, because I love practical strategies. I need something that is, I'm like Marcus Aurelius in Stoicism, was very practical in his meditation and his philosophy. I'm like that. I need to have like something tangible to do or to share with clients. So a practical strategy that I've shared with clients when it comes to yawning is diaphragmatic breathing. And actually I made a video where I was sharing technique on breathing with the chest, the belly, and the diaphragm. And you can look in that video. There's the idea that depending on where you breathe, you're going to affect different muscle tension and different spinal movement, different joint play will happen. And in the case of yawning, the diaphragm is really where it's at. So the diaphragm is kind of like an umbrella-shaped muscle between your lung and your organs. And sometimes when it's tense like that, it feels like someone punched you in the stomach, like, whew, and you feel like, and it can lead to a sensation of that mimics anxiety quite a bit. So doing some diaphragmatic breathing with your hands on the diaphragm between the chest, the hard part, and the belly, the soft part. There's like kind of like a little shape like this. That's the rib cage, that's the belly. And then the rib cage turns in a bell. And if you put your hand above that place, and if you try to breathe, raising your chest and your belly, and put your hand on your diaphragm, eventually you're gonna yawn. I've done that exercise and meditation style myself quite a bit, either way by myself or going to a Tibetan bowl meditation that someone else was hosting so I could just receive. And I was yawning. And at the end, I felt so floaty, like fluffy. My brain was just floating in space. And that sensation of yawning and feeling relief is not something I'm gonna pressure you to try to seek out or to beat and try to score as many yawns as possible. It's not the idea here, but you can try it. And if you yawn, you yawn. If you don't, you don't. But that's a practical way to train yourself to go into the yawning section of part. The third aspect that was, that's something that is also in the article from Paul Ingram. It's cat stretch. So pendiculation is a cat stretch, right? And if you that's a practical thing you can do actually. You can activate your own cat stretch if you don't do it spontaneously or automatically in the morning when you wake up. If you don't go in that phase without thinking, you can actually to some extent initiate the part of the process. So here I will reach out, I will try to go out with my hands, and I'm gonna contract everything, and then I let my body go. It goes where it wants. So I'm not doing it more here, but you got the gist of it. I want you to kind of play with it and see if it gets you into a position of stretching and maybe yawning, maybe not, but that sensation of contraction and then deep release feels quite fantastic. And that's one of the benefit of yawning to some extent too. You have that deep contraction and then it fades away. So that's a physiologic sensation of and oftentimes that physiological sensation of is enough. You might just be able to reach that day, or you might just want to do this. And it feels quite a bit, and you don't have to overachieve that sensation. You just have to reconnect with that basic sensation that we have as humans. So that's the article for today. That's the message here about yawning, about contraction. Check out the page from Paul Ingram on his painscience.com. You can also definitely check the videos we have made on the breathing. And I hope that to some extent this gives you some food for thought and maybe a little bit of distraction or actually some enjoyment. I'm looking forward to talk to you soon and enjoy a good yawn. Oh, also, yeah, it's communicative. So yeah, it feels good. Like maybe you yawn too. Bye.